So this is gonna probably come as a surprise to you, but I was quite the sporty boy when I was your age, okay? I played football, played basketball, wrestled a little bit when I was a kid, but my first love was baseball. And I started playing baseball. I was in third grade, and I played third base, and here's the thing. About halfway through the season, the girl that we had named Courtney was fast pitch. She's playing catcher. She got, hit by a bat or a ball, didn't want to do it anymore. And so I'm at third base, like, Tibbit, do you want to play catcher? And I was like, and wear the murderer mask? Of course I do. And so I went over there and started playing catcher, and I fell in love with it because you got to touch the ball every time. When I play third base, I might touch the ball once or twice a game. I'm picking my nose, throwing my glove up in the air and catching it. My ADHD is wrecking me, right? But when you play catcher, you get to touch the ball every time. And I played it from third grade all the way up through high school. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Well, here's the thing. Baseball, like a lot of sports, if you want to practice certain aspects of your position, you need someone else to help you. You need someone to pitch to you. You need someone to pop up foul tips so you can work on getting the mask off and catching, right? And the problem with that is I grew up way out in the middle of nowhere in the country. I had one neighbor my age. He did play baseball, but in the summers, he went to visit his mom for 8 weeks, and he was never there. So I literally played catch with myself. And so summer of sixth grade, I made up this game where I would take my mitt, take my ball, and I would kind of half squat down, kind of like I'm going to the bathroom. And then I would throw the ball up in the air as high as good without looking, and then I would pretend rip my mask off and run and get up underneath it, right? And then here's the problem. I figured out that even though I wasn't looking where I threw it, I could still kind of tell where it was going to go. So I started that summer, sixth grade year, throwing it up on the roof of our house. Okay, because then I couldn't see up over the peak, and then I would pretend to rip my mask and run and get underneath it and try to catch it, right? And so I was playing this game, throwing the ball on the roof of the house, one weekend while my mom and dad were home from work, and I get 3 throws in, and my dad comes out, boy, stop throwing the ball on the roof. You're going to damage the shingles, you're going to break a window, you're making all kinds of racket, And so I responded as a lot of you do, which is where you're like, yes, sir, but on the inside you're like, I be doing what you want while you home, but when you go back to work on Monday, I be doing what I want, right? I'm gonna be throwing that ball on the roof. And so the next week, Dad goes to the factory, Mom goes to her office where she worked, and I went out and started playing this game again. I throw the ball up on the roof, pop my mask, run and get underneath it. My sister comes out, Dad told you not to do that. You need to quit. I'm like, whatever, get back in the house. What do you know? So I'm throwing the ball on the roof, ripping my mask, catching it, run, jump, throwing the ball on the roof. Sometimes I'm throwing it without even looking, and I'm so in the zone, so focused on what I'm doing, I don't really realize what's around me, okay? And so I throw the ball on the roof, I run over here, I catch it, and I throw the ball on the roof. And you ever have one of those moments where everything kind of slows down? So the ball leaves my hand. Oh no, because I'm underneath a tree. Little sapling in our yard. They always had the caterpillar nests in it. It didn't have any leaves on it. And I throw the ball. Oh, no. And I watch the ball. It's going onto the roof, and it hits a small tree limb, and now its trajectory is changing, and it's going over here to the right. And in the front of our house, off the living room, we had 2 of those slidey windows that go up and down, you know what I mean? And then in the middle, there was this 6 foot wide, 4 foot tall, viewing bay window right off of the living room. And I watched that ball hit that limb and change its trajectory, and glass everywhere. I hear a scream. Ah! My sister runs out to the front door, and her words, and I quote, "You're so dead, Dad is going to kill you." Nothing like a sister to shoot straight with you, right? Cut you down at the legs. And so on the outside, I'm like, whatever, what do you know? But on the inside, I'm like, Dad's going to kill me, And I had to live in that zone for 4 hours where you're waiting on your parent to get home. You guys been in this zone, and you've done messed up, Ron, and you're just wondering how bad it's going to be. And I'm waiting at home, waiting for the sound of his Chevy truck on the dirt road, and I hear it, whoa, 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 whoa. The door slam, him walking in the gravel. He doesn't come inside. I'm like, oh, she ratted me out. She totally called him, and she did. And then I hear the word that literally would cause me to flinch. Boy, get out here! And so I go out. He didn't murder me, in case you're wondering. I'm still alive. I mowed a lot of yards that summer, and I did not sit very quickly or walk normal for a few weeks, if you know what I'm saying, right? Now, the moral of the story is this, okay? Sometimes we get so caught up in doing what we're doing, throwing the ball on the roof, throwing the ball on the roof, throwing the ball on the roof, that we forget what's going on around us, like a tree. And on a deeper level, like you junior hires, like listen, I know I'm chubby and old, okay? I have ADHD like on a level 11 out of 10, okay? Like I'm literally a junior hire in heart, okay? And I know you guys, and I know that as junior hires, you guys get so fixated on the road that you're walking. This is my life. I play my video games. I go to my sports practices. I go to my classes. I try to do my homework. I fight with my parents. I fight with my siblings. Like I live my life. This is the road I'm walking. And you get so caught up in living life, doing what you want to do, that you completely miss that all around you are not trees, but half-dead people. And I'm not getting all M. Night Shyamalan and like real, I'm not talking ghosts. I'm talking there are broken people, hurting people everywhere around you. But so often you guys get so fixated on doing what you're doing that you don't even realize it. Because here's the thing, half-dead people are all around you, and you need to know that not everybody who's half-dead bleeds. Not everybody who's half-dead has bruises. There are people in this room tonight, people from your youth group, people from your school and your ball teams, man, and they are broken and they are hurting, and you just in your lane, living your life, doing what you do, and you don't even realize it. I'm going to throw out some statistics and trigger warning a little bit, okay? But as a youth minister, we have to talk about this stuff because some of you in here need to know, because this might not be the road that you're walking, but like you need to know what your peers are dealing with, okay? So trigger warning. Man, there are kids in this room who struggle with food insecurity. There are kids in this room who came with you from your school and your youth groups and your ball teams, and this is the first week where they've known where every meal was going to come from in a long time. There are kids in this room, you guys are the most depressed and anxious and struggling and thinking about suicide. You're the most depressed and anxious generation that's ever walked the face of this planet. And it started around the time smartphones came out and social media came out. 1 out of every 3 students sitting in this room, 1 out of every 3 kids that you walk the halls with, that play on your ball teams, that are in your social groups and at your lunch table, 1 out of every 3 of them struggles with depression, anxiety, and thinking about suicidal thoughts. If you look at just females, it's 2 out of 3. It's like 64% struggle there. 1 out of every 6 males in this room, 1 out of every 4 females in this room, before you hit 18, will struggle with the type of abuse that I don't even want to say on stage. You'll be hurt. And here's the thing, I hate to talk about this, and there's so many more things that I've watched my own students go through, being bullied, being ostracized, being left out, being lonely, all of these things. But the thing that you've got to understand is these half-dead people are all around you. And here we are just walking our road, living our life, too busy with what we got going on to even see them and help. But if you're going to subscribe to what Jesus is doing, and you're going to make him your boss and your Lord, and you're going to follow him, if you're going to subscribe to what he's got going on in his kingdom, you're going to lower yourself, you're going to see these people, and you're going to be willing to come and help them with open hands. And that is what he's challenging you to subscribe and buy into tonight, is that you be a neighbor. You be someone who loves the people around you who are hurt and broken, rather than just living your life for the kingdom of me, completely ignoring all the people around you that are hurting and broken. You follow? And that's exactly what Jesus was saying in this parable that you guys just had read for you a few seconds ago. I love the way they read that. And so here's the thing. I'm visual. I'm going to need my friends from Central to come on up here, okay? The 4 of you. Don't jump up on stage because you may break an ankle and die, but go around, find some stairs or an elevator, escalator, balloon, I don't know. Find something. I'm a visual person. Like, I have ADHD, and so like when somebody's like, hey, I want to talk to you about something, they read to me, I'm like, no, I got to look at it. So I got some friends. You guys come over here and stand over here. They're going to help me flesh this story out for you. I'm going to begin giving some of you some things that I need you to put on. Oh, bro, this is you right here. You look so good, okay? Yeah, don't clap. That's you. Why don't you put on, no, I want you to put on that and this and that, and you can hold this. It's very important. And I need you to just stay here. Okay, let me get a mic. We'll get to know their names. Here we go, real quick. What is your name?
Nathan.
Nathan, and you're from Central and Fort Smith, right?
Yes.
It's one of our sister churches. We went to camp with them. Love these guys. What's your name?
Thad.
Is that really your name?
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite color?
orange.
No, it's not. It's blue. All right, what's your name?
Lexi.
Lexi. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Correct. What's your name?
Moses.
Moses. Bro. I mean, that brings out your eyes, dude. Look at you. Look, you look so good in that. I'm going to have to send a picture to my daughter. All right, here's my helpers. Let me tell this story, okay? That is one of my daughter's jean jackets, okay? I'll tell you why we're using it here in a second. All right, so Jesus tells this parable, and parables are truth stories, right? And they have this one point that they're trying to drive home. And he tells a parable. Noah, what is your name again?
Nathan.
We're going to call him Frank. All right, Nathan Frank tells a parable about a man, okay? And I'm not going to read it because you guys just heard it, but like this man, it says he was traveling down from Jerusalem. So he's leaving Jerusalem. You got to understand, Jerusalem, God's holy city where his temple was an elevated city. It was up on a hill, right? And it was spiritually elevated. And so when you left Jerusalem, you were going down no matter where you went. And so he's leaving Jerusalem, Frank Nathan, leaving Jerusalem, and he's going down this road to another town called Jericho, right? And as Jesus tells this, the man that asked the question that brought this about, and the people that are listening, they would have been like, oh, no, he not. Don't do it. You have a mom who loves you. Because this road was like known for being like a treacherous road. You don't go by yourself down this road. You don't go down this road at night. It was literally so bad, it was called Adumim, which means the pass of blood. This road had a lot of hidden curves that robbers and ruffians and thieves could hide around. It had caves along it that they could hide in and jump out on unsuspecting travelers. It had a lot of like spots where there was like a wall on each side or mountains on each side so they couldn't escape. I mean, it was a dangerous, dangerous road. And Jesus says this dude right here was traveling down it, and everyone hearing him that night was like, oh, bad thing's about to happen. And guess what? He gets attacked by robbers, and they strip him naked, they beat him, and they leave him for dead. Now, it's a little weird for us they strip him naked. Am I right? Keep your clothes on. You don't have to flesh this out literally, okay? We don't need that in our lives tonight, all right? But they strip him, and here's why. Because in this day and age, people didn't have a lot of money, and they didn't have enough money to have more than one change of clothes, you follow? And so oftentimes, travelers, the most valuable thing they had on them was literally the clothes on their back. And so these thieves jump this dude, beat him down on the pass of blood, take his clothes, and leave him for dead. Okay, it's a big job. I need you to be half dead for about the next hour and 45 minutes. Okay, right there. Just go die. Go die. All right. Don't move. Don't move. You're half dead. You're doing all right. Doing all right. All right. Then Jesus says, beaten, robbed, half naked, left for dead, right? Robbers run off. And then he says, a priest and a Levite. This is my priest right here because he's got a halo. He's so holy. Right? So we got a priest. Where's my Levite? Right here in the Levi's jacket. Yeah, you know. Okay. All right. So the priest and the Levite, they're traveling the same road that Frank got beat up on, right? And he's half dead. Right? Here's the thing. These guys, in this story, they're two different individuals, but for the sake of the point of the sermon, they're really the same, okay? These two guys are from a specific tribe and God's people in Israel, and literally their life revolves around the temple back in Jerusalem, God's holy temple where people would offer sacrifices so their sins could be atoned. And like 1 month out of the year, they would travel in groups from their home, and they would go to Jerusalem and live in Jerusalem for a month, and they would run the temple where people tried to make their lives right with God, okay? Now, the difference between these two is obviously he's got a snazzy jacket, okay? But the real difference is this guy's kind of a little bit higher up, okay? He's a priest. His whole job for that month was that he's offering sacrifices to atone for people's sin. That's what he does, right? Now, this guy over here, he's a Levite. His job is all the other things in the temple. So he's making sure the table of showbread's got bread on it. He's making sure the holy candlesticks are shined and burning. The holy hand grenades in its box, right? It's ready to roll. Like, that's his job. He's doing everything else. He's offering sacrifices. But here's the deal. They were expected to adhere to the same code of conduct, right? They can't eat certain foods or they'll be unclean and can't do their jobs. They can't wear certain clothing, otherwise they would be unclean and wouldn't be able to do their jobs. They can't touch a dead body. They can't even let their shadow touch a dead body, because if they do, they would be unclean for a week, and they cannot perform their functions back at the temple, right? And so these guys, they see Frank, he's half dead on the road, he's naked, they're like, right? But they don't stop to help, maybe because they're afraid we won't be able to fulfill our duties. Now here's the thing. I don't think that's it. Because the passage specifically says that the priest was going down the same road. He's leaving Jerusalem. He's leaving, and likely the Levites are doing the same. And they're traveling alone, and when they went to Jerusalem to do their duties, they went in groups. But these guys are leaving alone, and they're going down from Jerusalem. So they can't use that as an excuse, right? They could help this guy. They're choosing not to. And I really think what's going on, if you're asking my professional opinion, and I'm not a professional, is that these guys are going, we got things going on. We're really important. We can't stop and help Frank. We can't. I mean, yeah, we could, but we'll be unclean, and people will look down on us and treat us differently, right? We haven't seen our families in over a month, and if we're unclean, we can't even go into our house. We haven't seen our children. Maybe they got loved ones to visit. Maybe they've got, children that haven't seen in over a month, and they're going, I got things that I want to do. I got things in my life that I want to go and see, and here's the problem. If I help this guy, I may suffer a little bit. It may cost me something. And so they chose not to help. It says they passed by. You guys are going to stand by that X over. They passed by on the other side. Likely that means they walked far enough away that their shadow wouldn't even touch Frank because they don't want to be unclean because they're a big deal and they got things going on, right? They can't burden themselves with this half-dead dude on the side of the road. So stay there. Don't move. You look fabulous, right? Next part of the story. Frank, you doing all right? No, you're half dead. Don't move. Are you doing all right? If you're doing okay, wink twice. I just spit on you. I'm sorry. All right. But then he gets to the part of the story that's so dope because Jesus says, hey, these guys were unwilling to help. They pass by on Frank. He's half dead. But then, come over here. Tell me your name again. Lexi. No, stay here. A Samaritan. Now, as we say that, we have no context. We have no context. And what you got to understand is that the man that asked Jesus the question that brought this story about, and everyone listening in that day when Jesus said, hey, the holiest dudes in your entire nation wouldn't help this guy. People that are literal rock stars. They're wealthy. They're held on pedestals. They're a big deal. Look at their jacket, all right? They wouldn't help, but a Samaritan would. And the people in the crowd would have been like, offended. Because here's why. Samaritans were hated. They were hated by the Jews. They were despised. Jews wouldn't do business with them. They wouldn't drink out of a cup or eat out of a bowl that they had used. They wouldn't even travel through their area, right? Because it was in the middle. Jerusalem was in the south. Galilee, Jesus' kind of headquarters was in the north. And people would typically go 2.5 days out of the way to avoid Samaria. They hate these people. Why? Because they're mudbloods. It's the best illustration I can think of. I'm a huge fantasy, young adult, sci-fi nerd, secretly on the inside. It's my guilty pleasure, and I love this world. They're mudbloods. They had, the Harry Potter world, if wizarding families intermarried with Muggle families, their children had dirty blood, mud blood, right? And they were treated awfully by the Lestranges and the Malfoys and families like that. And the Jews treated these Samaritans the exact same way because years before Jesus tells this story, these people had intermarried with people who were not God's people. They were not Jews. And they had muddied their bloodline. They were half-breeds, and the Jews hated them. Wouldn't even let them sacrifice at the temple that these guys run to have their sins atoned for. Wouldn't even allow it. In fact, the Samaritans, hundreds of years before Jesus, built their own temple in Mount Gerizim. And you know what those guys did? They went, killed a bunch of Samaritans, and tore it down. They hate them that much. And a Samaritan walks up and sees Frank. And it says he took pity on him, compassion, empathy, sympathy, right? And why is that? And I'm going to plant this in your pocket right back here. We're going to pull it out later. I think our Samaritan here, Lexi, sees the half-dead, beat, broken guy and is like, same. I know what this is like. I've been here. Maybe not physically, but I've been here emotionally. I've been treated and mistreated all of my life by the people around me. I've been bullied and ostracized and made fun of, right? I've been picked on and belittled just because of decisions that my ancestors made, right? And I think the Samaritan walks this road and sees half-dead Frank and goes, I get it. But I also think this. He's not over here with his to-do list and all the things that he wants to do, all the important things that she has going on. She's humble, and she sees him. So what does she do? It says that she cleansed his wounds with wine and oil. And what you got to understand, you got the wine. Okay, it's probably not allowed here. That was a joke. The reason why they would have used wine to clean the wounds is because it had alcohol in it. It was an antiseptic. It would have cleaned them, a lot like, hydrogen peroxide or alcohol does nowadays. And he would have taken oil. It's likely oil that maybe he's carrying to put on his her eyes to keep the bugs and insects away, but he puts the oil on the wounds to keep them clean. And then it says he bandages his wounds. And here's the deal. It's not like Band-Aids were invented. She ain't got no first aid kit. So what did she do? She literally probably took their outer garment and ripped strips off of it to make bandages. This Samaritan man literally tore up the most valuable thing he had to cover the wounds of someone who had his shirt taken. And then he put him on his donkey. You got the donkey? Where's the donkey? We'll find it. We'll find it. Takes this person, puts it on their own donkey, and walks in the desert heat rather than ride, with part of the shirt missing, likely the sun beating down, and takes him to an inn and goes to the innkeeper and says, here's 2 denarii, right, to cover this person's care. And if it's anything more above that, I will repay. That is a legal binding statement. This Samaritan is vowing, if it costs anything above this 2 denarii, I will legally cover it. This is a binding agreement. And 2 denarii doesn't mean anything to us because we're not Jewish, but it's essentially 2 days' wages. So, I know because my wife is a middle school librarian, but if you were a teacher in the state of Arkansas, first-year teacher, those 2 denarii are like $420. That's high. That's a lot of money. So he took 2 days' wages, covered this person, and said, if it's anything more than that, I will repay. And Jesus gets done telling this story, and the person who asked the question basically says, he asked him, which one of these was a neighbor? Who loved this man? Was it your holy priest and holy Levite that you guys hold in such high esteem? Were they a neighbor? Or was it this half-breed Samaritan that you guys hate? And the person who brought this argument about I love this won't even say the word Samaritan. They just said the one who had pity on him, the one who helped him, right? Won't even say Samaritan because they hate him so much. And Jesus, after this guy says that, Jesus basically says, go and do likewise. Be like this Samaritan, this half-breed, this mudblood. And here's the thing, tonight, hang tight, you doing good? Got a little bit more. Tonight, this is the calling that Jesus is putting on you. That if you're going to subscribe to him and his kingdom and his ways, he's saying, I want you to be a mudblood. I want you to be like the Samaritan, okay? I want you to do what they do. And so let me break this down for you real quick. Here's what I think they do. And you got to plant this so hard in your mind and your heart. Here's the first one. You ready? This Samaritan was able to help the half-dead Frank because they got low. Everybody say got low. And I'm not talking like apple-bottom jeans, get low. I'm talking like they were humble. They had a low opinion of themselves. They had been mistreated all their life. They don't think that they're a big deal and they've got too much going on to help Frank, right? They don't think, well, I've got to get home and I can't be unclean and I can't help this person because then I can't see my family and my kids and I can't help at the temple. They don't think too highly of themselves with their nose in the air. This Samaritan has a low view of self because they've been mistreated their entire life, so they got low. My favorite word in Scripture is humility. I think humility is more important than love. We can argue about that another time. Humility, and the word humility, it's 2 words combined. I'm about to get real nerdy with you real quick, okay? It's tapenaphrasune. Tapenaphrasune. It's 2 Greek words, tapenos and phren, and tapenos means low to the ground, and phren means torso. Because in this day and age, the people that Jesus is teaching to, they believe that your torso, your gut, was the center of who you are. It's where your thoughts, your feelings, emotions came from, right? It's where your decisions came from. And so to take that and get it low to the ground is to be humble. This Samaritan was humble, maybe by force, because they lived a rough life being mistreated and belittled and picked on. And so they had no hesitation at all at being low to the ground when it comes to their perception of self. Here's your problem. I work with you. I love you, right? I love you, junior highs. Hear me on this. I think your parents a lot of times do you a disservice by structuring their pocketbooks and their calendars completely around you and your activities and your sports ball and all the things that you have going on. And I think that a lot of times your parents, because we're not in an agricultural, society. Listen, I have a farm. I've got like 30 head of cattle. My girls know how to work. But I think a lot of you guys grow up not really knowing how to be disciplined and work. And because of that, you kind of think you're a princess, right? Daddy's princess. Daddy's special boy. Now here's the thing. You are special. Like, you're special in God's eyes. You're special in your parents' eyes. You're special in your youth minister's eyes. But here's the thing. You are not the most important thing on this earth. It's not about you. God has not gifted you with your time and energy and passion and gifts so that you can build a kingdom of me. It's not, I did not think you would cheer on that. It's not about you and your sports glory and your entertainment through your video games and your entertainment through your shows and you elevating yourself socially in your circles at school and picking on people and using them as a step stool. That's not how it's meant to be done. You've been given your days on this earth to buy into and subscribe to this guy and do kingdom work and love the hurting people around you. That's why you're here. It's not about you. And here's the thing. If you're walking around with an elevated torso and you're not humble and you think that this world's about you and what you want to do and where you want to go and you got things going on, you're going to miss the people around you that are broken and hurting and need love and need a friend and need a neighbor. So the first thing you got to do is get low. It's not about you. Here's the second thing you have to do. And it comes easy, is you have to see. Everyone say see. It's hard to see when you up here. But when you take who you are and you get low to the ground, it's easy to see the people who are broken and hurting around you. Here's the thing. Those kids in your school, if you look at them with your eyes, you might see them as weird and different. You might see them as not as socially acceptable as you or not as popular. You might see them as a burden or in your way. But if you look at the kids in your school with the eyes of Jesus, you will see that kid that sits all by themselves that you don't pay any attention to because they're too hard to love and too different, they're lonely. They're half dead. They need a friend. If you will look with the eyes of Jesus, you'll see those kids that the people around you use as a stepping stool by bullying them and picking on them to elevate themselves. You will see that you know what they need? They need someone to stand between. Because here's the truth. There are a lot of robbers and thieves in your junior high, and there's probably a lot of robbers and thieves in this room who have done this to kids in your school and on your ball teams and in your youth group. They've picked on them and belittled them, verbally and emotionally beat them to elevate self. And maybe what that kid needs, instead of looking at them being like it's their own fault, they walk down the road of blood. It's their own fault, they're weird, they're different. That's why they get picked on, that's why they get made fun of. Instead of looking at them through human eyes, you look at them through Jesus' eyes and say, I'm going to stand between the woman caught in adultery and these people picking on them. Because that's what Jesus did. I'm going to stand between the Samaritan woman that everyone's outcast, because that's what Jesus did. He's calling you that if you will lower yourself and see people with the eyes of Jesus, you will see opportunities to love the hurting and broken everywhere around you. The opportunities are literally endless. Endless. If you will just lower yourself and see, right? And here's the last thing you got to do. And this is what the Samaritan did. The Samaritan had this low view of self. They saw Frank half dead on the road, and they came with open hands. Everybody say open hands. What I love about this story is this person right here was not asked to do a GoFundMe and raise $1 million for Frank's medical expenses. This person was not asked to do some astronomical, monumental thing to help this person. Do you know what the Samaritan did in the story? They took literally what they had on their personhood in that moment. And it was little. Oh, it's a shirt. Oh, it's a little bit of wine. It's a little bit of oil. A couple days from mowing lawns. But it was the world to this guy. It was nothing to Lexi the Samaritan. I can get a new shirt. I can mow some more yards and get a few more days' wages. I got more wine and more oil at home, right? It was nothing. But it was everything to this guy. It was the world to him. She came with open hands. And here's the thing. What I want you to realize and understand is that the hurting and broken people in your lives and in your schools and on your ball teams and in your youth groups and sitting in the row with you right flipping now. You have everything you need right now in your hands to help them and change their world. Can you be a friend? Can you listen? Can you stand up for them? Can you spend time with them? Can you send them an encouraging text or note? You have everything you need to literally change someone's world right here if you will just lower yourself, see them, and come with open hands. Give it up for these guys. Will you leave your stuff on the stage? Best dead person in the world. So while you just drop it on the stage. I'm gonna land the plane with this story, and I want to drive that point home. I want to drive the point home that you can literally change the world for one kid around you with so little. And I hate to tell you this story, but I'm gonna be real with you, okay? I don't like to tell this story because I'm in it, and usually in my stories I look like an idiot, but in this story I kind of look all right. But I'm gonna be real with you guys. I should not be preaching this sermon tonight. Like, I struggle with this. I struggle. My ADHD, I'm focused on bow hunting. I'm focused on farming. I'm focused on that meeting and the things I got to do. I don't have time to be seeing needs and putting everything on break and hold. I'm bad at this. I'm so bad at this. And it hurts my soul to think about the hundreds of kids that maybe I dropped the ball on them and they felt unloved. They felt like I didn't help them and didn't stand up for them. There's this one time that in my idiocy and my stupidity, it was a God moment that I got it right, and it was so minuscule that I didn't even remember it happened. I was a student in our youth group years ago, and this kid actually was from another church. Our youth group, most of the churches in town can't keep a youth minister. They don't have enough money to have one and not enough kids to justify a youth group, and so we end up kind of being the youth group for the community. And this kid had grown up in a different church, and they started coming to our youth group in high school, and man, we fell in love with this kid. They were funny, they're outgoing, they won over the hearts of our adults, they won over the hearts of our students, right? And God had put a calling on their life to do ministry, and they didn't know what that looked like. And they were really nervous and scared because they had kind of a learning disability, dyslexia, that prevented them from being able to read really well. And they're like, how could I teach? How could I preach? How could I, get up and tell people about Christ? And so they were thinking about missions, and they didn't really know, right? And so they graduated high school, and they went with us to this event for high school. It's called See How I Move. Highly recommend it. Super great. And they went with us. And that summer, they were playing this documentary called Love Costs Everything. It was about the persecuted church around the world. And in this video, it's full-length film. They interviewed Christians who'd been persecuted, right? And this student was so excited because man, I feel like God's calling me, but I don't know what, and I kind of have a heart for missions, right? And we get in there, and they start this documentary, and as the thing started, the problem is when you interview Christians from around the world who don't speak English, you're going to have subtitles. And this kid, you just probably shoulders just dipped because they're like, how am I going to? And so in that moment, guys, I'm not elevating myself. Please hear me on this. I am the dumbest person in the world when it comes to stuff. I miss it all the time. But in that moment, I must have just been focused, low to the ground. I just got up and went and sat by him and just started reading subtitles. And the movie gets done, and I think nothing of it because it was that minuscule to me. It was very little. Fast forward years later, and an adult comes and puts an article on my desk. And I read that article, and I wept. I cried like a baby. And this article hangs on the wall directly across from my desk. It's the only thing on that wall that's not from my personal children, because every day I want to look at it and be reminded of this. Because in that article, this kid, man, they went to Bible college, they graduated, they started working for a church organization, and they literally preach and teach to thousands of people all the time. And in that article, they said, the moment that I felt like God was calling me to do kingdom work, God was calling me to subscribe, to preach and teach and love the people around me, right? Was watching that documentary when my old chubby dumb youth minister got it right, 1 out of 1,000,000, and read those subtitles to me. And they said in the article, I took a screenshot, that meant so much to them because watching it created a moment when someone saw them like Jesus sees people. And I didn't think anything of it. It was nothing to me. But it was the world to them. And that was the moment they decided maybe God could use them to teach, and maybe God could use them to preach. And that kid reaches students like you by the thousands every summer. And you know who they are because it's Mallory Jenkins. It's her. No. I do not tell that. Please don't clap. I have failed 1,000,000 times before that one time. I tell you that because I want you to realize, guys, it doesn't take much. That lonely kid sitting at the table by themselves just needs someone to sit with them. It's not much. That kid, that girl at school that bounces from boyfriend to boyfriend and maybe dresses the way she shouldn't, she's looking for attention, and maybe you could be that friend that in an appropriate way gives it to them. That kid that's a bully and picks on people is likely doing that because maybe that's how they've been treated at home. And I could go on and on and on with all the illustrations. It doesn't take much. You just got to be willing to stop living life. This is all about the kingdom of you. And you've got to lower yourself and get low and see the people around you through the eyes of Jesus. And if you will do that and give a little, it can mean the world to them. And you have no idea how God could use them to change thousands of people just like you. And that is the call tonight. Will you stop building a kingdom of me, throwing the ball on the roof, so focused on doing what you want to do? And will you lower yourself and see the hurting and broken around you in your world? And will you be a neighbor to them?